So it says energy access and development, but actually there are some in between words over here. Energy access as a poverty reduction strategy for development. So I must confess at the outset that this topic has not been covered so much in detail in my paper. Professor Kamal knows it, and this represents just the conclusion part of it, but I will definitely go into the background, so stay tuned. So energy access, as you can see, this portion, the yellow portion, actually these are the colors from the Indian flag as well. But energy access is yellow because of the color of sun, as our eyes perceive. And it's not a technological issue, let me tell you. It's also a developmental issue, and this is what I'm going to put forward to the table, that it is a development issue. And generally, what happens is the development part of energy access is forgotten, and it's only the technical details that are being looked into, like what wattage, what technology is being used, how sustainable is the technology, but we somehow tend to actually ignore the development perspective. So I quote an example from yesterday's presentation when an esteemed faculty member suggested in a financing presentation, McKinsey stands a witness to that we can have ATMs in the areas to reduce the transaction cost for financial transactions. But the question was, where's the energy to power those ATMs? So energy is a development goal, and that's how I would term it as a missing MDG or an underlying MDG. It's not an end in itself, but it definitely is a means to that end. And I have evidence and I have literature review to support this, that it contributes to each and every MDG in place. So how do we define energy access? For those of you who are completely new to this sector, by the way, this is a map of the world in light. So here is the Amazonian forests, here is the Sahara, and the rest of Africa is in dark. India seems to be lit up, but actually I'll throw some numbers over to you as well. But okay, let's talk about numbers. There are 1.3 billion people, almost whole of China, which is in dark. They don't have access to electricity. 2.7 billion people who are still using biomass fuels for cooking. So that's the situation in India alone, although it seems to be pretty lit up because of sporadic urban centers. But in India, there are 289 million people who are still using kerosene for lighting. That's the latest census data from 2011. So going forward, what is energy access? This is given by AGECC, which is the Advisory Group on Environment and Climate Change by UN. So we see basic human needs. Again, it's a needs-based approach. Level 1 is basic human needs: lighting, cooking, something related to health, education, mobile phone charging, something like that. Whereas level 2 is productive uses: mechanical power, like cottage industries, handlooms being converted to motor rooms, something like that. Level 3 is modern societal needs, like rice cookers at your place, washing machines. So it's a continuum, it's not a standalone thing. Going forward, this was in 2010, and recently it's a great pleasure to say that the UN has recognized this as a development goal, and they've launched a campaign called Sustainable Energy for All, which is a big campaign, and it's under the Secretary General now, which actually gives this 5-point tool. I'm not going into details of this because this is again technological. Like, the technology is transitioning and the access is increasing. But this is only about electrical access of energy. So, coming back to it, what was I doing during these last 12 months in India? I was based in Delhi, but traveling to different parts of the country, especially the northeast. I don't have the map of India, but this is what I was doing. Basically working with communities to set up these solar charging stations, which are in the rural areas where they have little or very minimal access to electricity. And an entrepreneur, as you see, by the way, this is a development tactic that they use women as a matter to portray the things because of funding constraints and funding propaganda, but actually there are very less women in the project. So a woman entrepreneur charges these lanterns and rents it out to the community, another woman, and they pay something like $1.50 a month. and then they enjoy these services. It's a fantastic concept and it works. I have a testimony to this, and but there are huge challenges to this as well. So the challenges, and Professor Abt is here, so he would agree to these, that there are batteries in these little lanterns. I have one lantern to show you as well. These batteries go wrong very frequently because of misuse, because of abuse. Like these communities, they do not need just lighting. They have many other needs. They have many other productive uses to energy. So what they would do is, a family would collect 5 lanterns, join the batteries in series or parallel, I don't know the technology behind that, and then use it to charge a TV or something like that. So these are used, these are misused, and that's why there's so many issues related to after-sales service. And these are remotest of the remotest communities. So what happens is that a manufacturer who's manufacturing these lanterns in, let's say, an urban center is not able to cater to the servicing needs of these communities on a regular basis. So what happens is, 1 year down the line, the system goes defunct. As of now, my program called Lighting a Billion Lives has 2,000 villages that have been covered by this program, out of which 40% of the stations are non-functional. Out of those 40%, 90% are 3 years old, which means the projects which were initiated 3 years ago have actually gone defunct because of lack of service and maintenance. So what TERI has done, the organization that I was working for is the Energy and Resources Institute. They have introduced this nice concept of energy enterprises, which is nothing but a shop in a rural area which is selling these products and also servicing them. So they are providing skills, training to these for-profit enterprises and setting up these for-profit enterprises to cater to the service. But this is not the agenda of my presentation today. Before the time runs out, I want to point out some salient features of these energy enterprise concepts. Number one, it's trying to reduce the inequality in the supply chain of energy access. For example, if I am a very rural, remote enterprise, an entrepreneur in a rural area who does not have access to the market, who does not have access to the manufacturer, TERI is helping me to get access to that manufacturer, acting as a bridge. So it's basically balancing the power, and TERI has a contract with that manufacturer which actually helps that rural entrepreneur to gain services from this large-scale manufacturer. So that's one. The second thing is TERI is collecting regular data from this enterprise because these are not very old. These have been established in September last year. It started in September. So TERI is collecting data from these enterprises, like what have been your sales in the past month, what have been the rectification status, what is the recurrence support, something like that, and then putting the information back to them so that they have access to market linkages, they have access to market research. Like, okay, you are doing it like this, you should do it like this so that you get more business. Something of that sort. And then policy advocacy for this. So it's basically playing a drum in the policy sphere that, okay, we have set up these 55 energy enterprises and it's a success. We have data to show that, and you take it forward. The private sector should take it forward. The manufacturer should also take it forward. Not going into the details, there are some very, very severe challenges. It's still a technology-driven approach. That is the fundamental question over here. It's still a technology-driven approach wherein energy access is termed as a technology deployment rather than development. So I'll show you how. Like, I have a lantern over here. This is a small 0.5 watt lantern which is developed by a company called D-Light, which is a fantastic venture by a Stanford graduate, 2 or 3 Stanford graduates, and they have expanded like anything in India and other South Asian countries. But again, this is technology deployment, and they have this lantern they sell these lanterns, and they sell like hotcakes. Let me tell you, they sell like hot. There is a small panel on the top, and there is this charging point from where you can charge your mobile phone, and there is a light. This is lit up, so it won't show, but it would show like this. So this is a wonderful thing, but if I tell you that you live with this particular lantern for the rest of your life, or at least 3 years of your life, next 3 years, how would you feel? So when do we graduate? I'll graduate in 2030. But when would they graduate from these? These are essential, let me tell you. These are very essential. But when do they graduate from this to the previous continuum that I told you? In India, this energy access thing has been in vogue for the last 30 years. We have a Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, but it's still into technology deployment stage. It has not graduated and it has not taken up the developmental agenda behind it. Fortunately, very fortunately, UN has recognized it, and they have a mission called Sustainable Energy for Access under direct guidance of the Secretary General, and it's making serious efforts, and practical action is associated with this particular thing very actively, and following an Energy Plus approach. What is the Energy Plus approach? We have to get rid of this minimalist approach now. This is the minimalist approach, and this is the Energy Plus approach. A household with energy inputs like this thing, energy inputs, basic energy needs addressed. So done. You have lighting, you have an improved cook stove at your place. Am I in time? So basic energy needs addressed, and you are still poor with access to modern energy services. But it's unsustainable. As I said, how long are you going to live with this? This can be thrown like this, it won't break, it's good. It's very sustainable in that sense. But ultimately, for how long? Then there's an Energy Plus approach with the this is from the UNDP document.
You turn that back again, Colonel, to make sure it didn't go off.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Good.
Okay, so what the new paradigm is, we need to give non-energy inputs too. What this is hinting towards is mainstreaming of energy access. Nothing is without energy. All MDGs are relying on energy, so there has to be mainstreaming of energy access in whatever program, in whatever NGO you are. There has to be a component on energy, wherein good practices in energy service delivery, financing, and mainstreaming. So, which will lead to basic energy needs addressed, plus increased affordability. Where does the money come from? This is hardly, this is hardly, I think it's less than $10, this thing. I'm not here to sell this though, but it's hardly $10. But to go beyond this in the same technology, solar or hydro or something, you need much more money than this. So what do we need? We need services like infrastructure, roads, communications, access to markets, market linkages have to be there, access to capital, like who's going to get those rural entrepreneurs on board so that they can actually get a resource pool which is up there, venture philanthropy, something like that. Then information and skills to get into productive ventures. And finally, medical facilities and schools, because they are social investments that we need to do. So that will reduce poverty and lead to further access to modern energy. And if we don't do this, we'll end up with poor with energy access, but not reduce poverty. That's all I have.